Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be back on a Tuesday with this live and don't have it recorded. So I would love for us to explore today the benefits or how can we look differently and that's our state of confusion. And I hope by the end of our experience here today together, you look at the confusion in a different way. As you know, I'm looking all the time to put a good spin on things, and I'm analyzing how the human nature really works in order for us to understand ourselves much better, but also to be a better partner into the community, into the teams, into family. Getting more clarity about who we are is going to impact very much so how we show up and what we do for others. So with that in mind, I would like for us to kind of get a little bit on the same page with what confusion is and why we're getting it, and what are some ways in which we can navigate through that, maybe in an easier way, and also to not let ourselves to be triggered in order to close ourselves up too much for too long in that state. So what is how would we define this? So let's just look at the confusion. I'm going to bring up here a quick banner for you. I'll show it to you. And we are going to look at this the confusion. If we can create together a definition of it, I would love for you to look at it and agree, if you wish, with me, that this is can be seen as natural. It's a part of the thought process. It's not something natural that happens to us. And what is important about this is to also know where our mind is trying to sort things out, and our goal is clarity. So our mind, our brain, is equipped to get to that state of clarity by itself. But when are we getting certain things into our brain and we're trying to process them, we're getting to this state of confusion. And if you think about the fact that the confusion arises, when does it arise? It's arising when you have a conflict thought or when there is an overwhelm of information, and we're all getting that. Today, more than any other time, we're not just waiting to open a book and read when we want to read what we would like to read at a certain time. We are bombarded and we are dragged into this information overload just because we're having all those devices and everything around us. All the environment has changed. And it has changed that we are almost look like we're not so much in charge of managing our time or putting our schedule together. We can be hijacked, not just by conversations that we would like to and love to have with one another, but this information that's coming onto us, that we are now allowing our brain to go on that path and look at that information, and then we get another one in our brain, and while we're all trying to focus to do our certain tasks. So it is like you're getting into a game and almost you may not even know what kind of a game that is, and how are you going to be ready to manage that game if you don't know how to play it. It's a combination of maybe you see a ball, but the ball is not necessarily a football. It's not necessarily a round ball, that's soccer ball, right? It's who knows what it comes to you and what are the rules. It's a combination of all the things that are happening in different games, and you now need to be quick and adapting and understanding what's happening around you. So that's kind of what I see the environment is happening. And when you get this overload of information, no wonder our brain and our mind gets confused. But there is a good news here, because if we're getting to that thought that we have this overwhelm and overload information, also when we are learning something new, we're experiencing the same thing. We're leaving our comfortable state of mind, knowing certain things, and we are pushing ourselves in that case to learn something new. And when we're doing that, of course, our brain's going to get through a certain state of confusion until it gets again to be to clear itself out. And what I would like for you to take out of this is the fact that our brain and mind is just created in such a way that it kind of, the normal state of our brain is going to get to that automatically. It may take longer time. It may take shorter time for some because they learn certain tools and they're using certain things in a different way. But think about when you put some water, and in that glass of water, you're going to just put some mud and you're going to stir it. And that's what we're doing every day with everything that we're getting. In order for that water to kind of clear itself, it's the nature of that water to get clear with the help of gravity and everything else that's there. If you wait until next morning, or if you look at it a couple of hours later, you're going to see that the water at the top is getting clear. And now, because it's clear, you can just see what happened there and what kind of things got into the water, and they're kind of at the bottom of it. So we do function pretty much the same way. Our brain and our mind has this way that it knows how to do this automatically. It's on that path to discover the clarity that it needs to go through this confusion state. And it's something normal. It's something that the more we look at it as something normal, the better it is for us, because we're not going to get triggered by being something else which is not, and label it in a different way. So if that confusion, also how I'm looking at it, is I'm looking as a signal that we are on this verge of getting a new insight or a new understanding. And if you're looking at that, then you should be excited. So I'm going to go over the 7 aspects why I think it's great when you feel confused. And I know this may look a little bit weird to someone to say that, but I think there is something that we should love about confusion state. And why am I using this way of presenting it is because I know your brain, if it absorbs this information and is putting this spin on it that it's not something wrong with us when we feel confusion, the sooner we know that, the sooner we let that process clear itself out. And we're going to get through that much easier. So yes, information overload is what creates the confusion. Ambiguity, when we have situations that we lack clear directions, we've seen this, or answers, that creates a sense of being lost and unsure and prompting for confusion. So I would like for you to also think how many times you are one of that person who creates this ambiguity in your team or in your conversations. How many times you're rushing so much, you're not focused, you're not present, you're not with that person to listen really well what they're saying and wanted to understand what somebody else wants to say to you. And how many times you're getting that, you're part of that ambiguity. You create that place where now somebody else is going to leave from there confused. And also think about, when are you creating, because our brain would like to have not like to have contradictory beliefs. So whenever you encounter new information that contradicts our existing beliefs or understanding, then we are also we're experiencing this cognitive dissonance, and we're leading to confusion. And also we're trying to reconcile certain differences in our brains. Our brain is going to that process in order to gain the understanding. What happened here? How did I get myself in this situation? I've seen a lot of people that are getting in this state of confusion, and they're not knowing, they don't know how to deal with it. So that's why I'm bringing this up here today. So another way in which we're getting confused is also, as I mentioned before, with how when we're learning and we're growing. So we need to know that this is part of our growing. We need to understand that when we learn new things and we grow personally, we often enter in these areas outside of our comfort zone. And that can create confusion. Because what is the growth after all? It's making that unfamiliar familiar. And then in that process, we will get things will get usually. That's why things are getting messier for the first part of when you're putting yourself through something new. It's going to be harder. It's going to be not so well for a while. But if you stay with that process, if you continue, if you can be consistent. So consistency is something that will take you through the confusion much faster. So that's, if you look at this as being a natural part of expanding our boundaries and capabilities, that's what's happening. Confusion is part of that. And what is this important is for the organizations to know, for teams to know that. I recently was with a team that it was pretty new team, and that sense of a confusion, you could hear it. People are thinking maybe the same thing, but they're not yet learning. They have not learned how to communicate with one another and how to have those conversations that are going to be productive, useful for them, without judgment, listening and bringing out what they have in a way in which they're not creating conflict. So yeah, conflict is another word. We're going to talk about that too, but confusion, getting back to that, is also for that emotional, kind of emotional stress can also create confusion for us. So we're getting in this, when we have our thing like our, it's also the stress, it creates almost like a cloud in our thinking. It's having us to function in a day when it's not sunny, which it's so much different from emotional state of being, different than when you see sun, when you see everything going well, right? So you kind of are more happier on that side. So it's the same way here. This emotional stress can cloud our thinking, and we're making it harder to see things clearly, and also leading to confusion. So when that happens, why I want to think about all of this is because you don't want to make decisions when you're in that state. You don't want to be the person who's going to let that trigger, if you got triggered to a certain way, making a decision that you're probably going to regret or probably come back and you need to re-establish. It's better to know that this is part of what it is. It's better to tell other people, hey, I'm in that state of confusion. I'm a little confused right now. I know this is normal, but I need time. I need time for that water to get clear. I need that time for that murky water to get down. And then maybe we can take this conversation again and continue this conversation tomorrow or who knows when. You will need to come back and tell others what is happening to you in order for them to understand where you are and appreciate the fact that you're not rushing or making decisions or pushing somebody into, you don't want to be pushed into a place where you're not ready to go. You need to take your time to allow yourself to go through this process, which is a normal process. And I would say probably people are not going through this in the same way. We're not going to react in the same way. We're different. We have the same mechanism in our body, but we're different, wired different. And that's beautiful that we are like that. We don't want to be the same. We may have some affinities. We may find ourselves that certain things are kind of the same. We may get ourselves synchronized in our brain, and we may help each other. We may have this intuition that's pushing us to the different ways, because we're getting to be very comfortable with who we are. And that when that happens, then we are just allowing ourselves to pull all this out and to show it to others. But we need to communicate that. We're still in the state where we need to communicate that. And here are the things that, 7 things that I think you could learn about the confusion. And first one is because it's a sign for growth. Confusion is very often a signal that we're at the verge of breaking through or learning something new. It's a sign that our minds are processing and integrating new information. Number 2, it's an opportunity for insight. In that space of not knowing whatever is happening, there is a tremendous opportunity for an insight and creativity. So when you find it that way, embrace that somehow, because without these preconceived notions, we are more open to novel ideas and solutions. It's also enhancing, number 3, enhancing the problem-solving skills. It's when you navigate into confusion, you're getting better and improves our problem-solving skills. Whatever you may not be aware of it, but that's what's happening in our brain. Our brain, I think, loves to solve problems. And that's why when it gets in this state, you like to love that state because you're getting better at solving some problems. It also forces us in a way to approach situations from a different angles and uses our critical thinking. And that is also very good news. Promotes also, number 4, promotes flexibility and adaptability. We become better when we're dealing with confusion. It's going to help us to become more flexible and also adaptable to, those are some qualities that are so invaluable in this rapid changing environment in which we are all living. And also encourages, number 5, exploration and curiosity. So can spark this curiosity when you're in that space because you're looking to solve or to get out of it naturally. We will get it's going to lead us into the exploration of the new topics, new ideas, or new perspectives. So this exploration can also enrich our understanding and expands our worldview. We will come out on the other side of this confusion with a new understanding. And that is good, very good news as well. I also like to say the number 6, I think is also very important because it's going to build emotional resiliency. And learning how to tolerate and navigate through this kind of confusion, it can also strengthen this emotional state that we call it resiliency. It's teaching us patience and also persistence, right? And it's also in the face of uncertainty. We're becoming better at managing the unexpected. And number 7, which I probably say it's one of my favorite thing that I kind of come up with here for you to think about it. It creates moments of connections, because if you're sharing when you're confused, if you're sharing your confusion with others, it can lead to deeper connections and shared understanding as invites vulnerability and mutual support. So I hope I gave you at least 7 reasons to love and embrace this confusion state of your mind. I think to love and appreciate this kind of confusion is very helpful to reframing not as a barrier, but more as a natural and also an enriching part of our learning and growing process. And by embracing confusion, we allow ourselves to be curious and explore without judgment, which is such a good thing to do. And it's also open our insights and understanding that eventually will emerge from it. We need to know that this mindset can transform the confusion from a state of frustration into one of the possibility to grow. And you're going to get out sooner out of it if you are going to look at it as with this new mindset that I'm proposing for you. I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, if you like to spark a conversation, please let me know. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.